Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fireside Chat. I'm C-Mass.
And I'm Gabe.
And I'm Rhett.
Rhett Diessner, to be exact.
Ooh.
Yeah, we got a special guest today. One of LC's most prominent and legendary professors, I think, in the history of school. He is, I consider him to be my mentor. He stole me away from the biology department and got me into psych. And he's a super interesting dude, so you want to introduce yourself?
No.
Oh, well, thank you guys for tuning in. No,
Show's over.
Well, I've had the bounty of teaching at LCSC for 33 years, and it's been a fabulous ride. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, I didn't know it was
Great
33
experience.
years.
Yes, I'm the longest teaching academic professor at the moment. Wow.
well, for a couple more weeks.
Yep.
Dang, that's, wow.
Yeah.
So we hear that you're retiring. This is sadness for all of us, but I think after 33 years, you probably earned it.
It's time for a break.
Well, people look forward to a retirement. I know one of the social science professors that retired a few years ago was like, when are you going to do it, Rhett? When are you going to do it? And then after we talk, he says, oh, I guess if you like what you're doing, why would you retire?
That's true. So, I don't think you understand how big of a deal this is for us.
Yeah, we're nervous.
Yes, we are nervous. We weren't even nervous for Dr. Hansen. At the end of every episode, we said, we want Rhett Diessner in here. We want Dr. D in here.
Well, I feel blessed to be here with you two beautiful young gentlemen.
Wow.
Thank you. No one ever says that to me.
Dr. Diessner, I want to ask you, so 33 years ago and before, let me rephrase this. How did you get to where you are now at LC in terms of like first off, what made you want to get into psychology?
So that's before LC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I had an older brother that I hero worshipped, and he went off to college. And then when he would come home once in a while, he'd start talking about his psych classes he was taking, even though he was an English major.
Uh-oh.
And it just sounded so interesting to me. So I asked to look at his textbooks, and in those days, it was the 60s, and the Beatles were really big, and they just gone through therapy with Arthur Janov, a type of therapy called The Primal Scream.
Whoa.
And I read that book, basically kind of pop psych. And I was like, whoa, psychologists think about the most interesting things. So that launched me.
Dang. The Beatles?
Yeah, the Beatles went through therapy with him.
Whoa.
So you can credit your success to the Beatles?
Honestly, that's, I think a lot of people can.
Jeez.
Okay, so moving on from that, so in the collegiate, first of all, how old were you when this happened?
I was about 12.
Wow, okay. So from that point on, you're probably just getting into high school or you're in middle school.
Right.
So, what does the path look like in high school? And then, did you go straight to college or did you take a break or what was the...
Yeah, I went straight to college. I had an uncle that was a psychiatrist. Rest in peace. He just passed away at age 97 last week. Wonderful man. And we had a really great talk, and it turned me on when I was 14. And I thought, well, I'm gonna go do pre-med and then become a psychiatrist. So when I hit college, that's what I was thinking I'd do.
So how did you not end up doing pre-med?
Well, after I left home and I was on my own and started thinking on my own, I had perhaps what you'd call a spiritual epiphany, and I wanted to get out in the world and help people. And, when you're 18 and you're looking at the route for a psychiatrist, 4 years undergrad, 4 years medical school, maybe 1 year internship, then 3 to 5 more years at a psychiatric school and residency. So, I'm 18 and thinking, oh, yeah, I'll be out helping people when I'm 30.
Yeah.
It seemed like a ways off in those days.
Right.
So I thought, let's go to nursing school. In those days, you could get an RN in 2 years, and I thought, I'll do that, and I'll go help people. And that worked. Got through nursing school in 2 years and went out and worked in an emergency room on the Yakima Reservation, and I helped people.
So you were a nurse?
I am a registered nurse. It's
Whoa.
true.
So if I had a heart attack right now, you would have some kind of idea of how to help me.
And especially, I'd stay calm. That's one of the best things about working in an emergency room. You learn how to stay calm when everything is freaking out around you.
So can you tell me how you do that? Stay calm?
How you stay calm? Like most things, it's practice. I mean, the first dead body I ever saw in my life, I was doing cardiac massage on, and that was just a week out of nursing school, and I was pretty freaked out.
Yeah.
But, like so many things in life, you do it over and over, and you get used to it.
Right. Kind of desensitizing.
Yeah.
Dang.
Can be good or bad.
It may be a good thing and a bad thing. That's what I was about to say. I mean, it's never good to be desensitized to that kind of thing. But I guess it helps if you're trying to help people.
Yeah, you want your hands to stay steady. You want to be too flooded with adrenaline.
It's a kind of superhero, Like most superheroes are kind of like, have that, like they've seen it all. So they don't get too emotional. Like, you don't really see very many emotional superheroes.
Ant-Man is pretty...
Okay, all right. C-Mass is, you're way better versed in superhero literature than I am.
I mean, I think it might just be because it's Paul Rudd. I think that's most of it. He just seems confused all the time. I'd consider that an emotion. Yeah. He's not very stoic.
Is confusion emotion? Would you consider it?
Confusion. Well, it could certainly be used as an emotion word. I mean, saying I feel confused totally makes sense, right? Yeah.
All right, everyone forgive me over the waves right now. I'm going to move this mic. It's going to be loud. It's going to be making lots of noise for a second.
So you're a registered nurse. What year is this? Probably in the...
Let's see. Graduated from nursing school in 77. Yeah.
Wow. Dang. That's crazy. I just think about them like the 70s. Like what? Like,
were you into disco?
That's a great question.
No.
What kind of music were you listening to back then?
In the 70s, I was listening to a lot of reggae.
Whoa.
Really?
Bob Marley, of course, at the top of the list.
That's...
And I even crossed over and got into a little country with Bad Boys, and little Willie Nelson.
Oh, man.
His buddies.
You're speaking my language.
Yeah.
Nice, dude.
This is kind of weird right now, because normally when we have a guest in, I normally drag someone from humanities over here, like, will you please be on our show? And then me and them are, like, having this conversation, and Gabe's like, But now you guys are doing it, I'm just like, I kind of like it. This is a weird place to be.
Yeah,
You kind of did that to me last time, though, when you were talking about music.
That's how it always goes. Well,
it's true.
We both have things we're interested in that neither one of us know
anything about.
So like, he's super into like games and stuff, and I just don't know. I'm not hip with the new memes and games and whatnot. Kind of old fashioned, but with music, it's like one of my passions. And although you like music, you were telling me that you were interested in making some one time. Yeah,
I used to be, but I don't know. I just don't think I've got an ear for music. I can't keep a rhythm. I can't play anything. All right, here's a little secret. I have a rap song already called Banana Bread.
Oh, my goodness. Where can we access this?
I made it my freshman year on SoundCloud. It is very...
it's vulgar?
It's very vulgar. Like, my verses are fine, but I had someone featured on it who had also never rapped before, and it's too much. Like, it couldn't be played publicly anyway. It's too much.
You're going to have to show this to me.
I will.
All right, hold on. We got to get back on track. So, how long were you a nurse?
I practiced 2 years.
So what made you not want to be a nurse anymore?
Well, that doesn't reflect really well on my personality, but I'm kind of like a know-it-all. And when you're in nursing school, they teach you all about the team approach. You doctors and everybody's a team. but somehow the doctors got left out of that discussion in medical school. And so I was often a little frustrated with some of the MDs.
So it was kind of like there was a team that was subordinate to the boss, who was the doctor.
And I wasn't enjoying myself a lot. I mean, there's one nice thing about being a nurse, especially like an ER nurse, is every day when you go home, you feel like you made a difference. And so that's a very good feeling. But the work itself is very stressful, and I didn't enjoy it very much. And I thought I should follow my heart, which was psychology.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And you just knew, you're like, this is it? Like, why did I never think of this kind of moment? Or were you like, was it like a nerve-wracking moment? Like, I'm really about to throw away all of this just to make a run at something?
Well, I felt very good about, I learned so much about real life, and like being a nurse really helped me grow up. I had a pretty sheltered life. I was my older brother called me a pansy once, and I started crying because he called me a pansy, so you kind of get the picture there. And being in ER really toughened me up, and that was, I appreciated that. Although I can still remember, I had this big vision of being a psychiatrist and really dealing with these really deep existential issues and discovering new theories about the human mind. And in nursing school one day, I'm looking at the screen and thinking, I'm studying vomit. I am studying different kinds of vomit. I am here in the classroom studying different kinds of vomit. Not the direction I thought my life would go.
That's a bad sign if you think, maybe I don't want to go in this direction.
Well, I mean, I guess that is kind of an existential journey to be on.
Yeah.
Dang. So when you quit nursing, did you go back to college and like immediately, or did you kind of
I did.
wander?
I did.
So where'd you go?
Well, I went for a year to Central Washington University in Ellensburg.
Oh, were the monkeys there at that time?
They were.
Whoa.
Yes, famous chimp lab. But I didn't even bother to go see them. Although I was interested in physiological psych and got hooked up with a guy that worked on live rat brains.
Whoa.
And I kind of thought that's the direction I want to go. I want to be a biological psychologist that studies the brain.
You want to work on rat brains?
I tried that one day, and I killed the rat, and I felt super guilty.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I accidentally put a drill a little too deep in his brain.
Ew.
Yeah, it was, exactly. And I thought, okay, I can't do this. I like animals.
Yeah.
Sorry, rat.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Oh. Dang, that'd be, if I were you, though, when I was working with rats, I would have to name one of my rats Rat Diessner.
Rat Diessner.
Dang, that's crazy, Dr. D, because that's like, what you're saying right now is so similar to like my path. Like when I first started school, I was going into nursing. And then I was like, man, I kind of want to do pre-med because I'd like to be a psychiatrist, because I took, like in the midst of that, I took your psychology class. I was like, whoa, like this is really cool, like super trippy. Like I'm really like, feel like there's something pulling me to this. And so like I kind of had that vision, but then I had to take a human dissection class. And man, I was like just having to work with cadavers, like it was just like, it was really interesting. I learned a lot, it was fascinating, but man, my dreams were just so bizarre, dude. Like I was, so I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And I was taking developmental psych with you. And I think that, I don't know, somewhere along that path, I'm like, man, I think I'm going to major. I remember I was talking to you in the hall of Sam Glenn. I'm like, I'm thinking about doing a double major of psychology. And you're like, that'd be a really cool thing to do. And
That would be a cool thing to do.
So yeah, then I started doing that, and then like I gradually just like stopped getting into biology. And of course it's still there, but no, here I am now. I'm like, man, this is like what I want to do with my life. So it's wild, man. I just really I'm speaking on behalf of like all psych majors. Just want to thank you for, that inspiration. Because if you think about it, you really have inspired like a whole generation of psychologists from this school. Like you can ask
Multiple
basically
generations.
anybody, even if they're not a psych, student, you ask them, who was your favorite teacher at LC? It's always Dr. Diessner. I talked to somebody who graduated 20 years ago, and they said that.
Oh, that's awfully sweet. Thank you.
Well, that's I wanted to ask you about that. So it's pretty undeniable. You have make or break with so many people at this school. Like people continue to go to school because of you. Like you are probably the most inspirational person in a lot of people's lives, and they only had you for a semester. Like, what is that like? We're not trying to be like, you're awesome, we love you. Like,
how does it feel to be a god?
What's it like to be bigger than Jesus?
All right. You guys are ruining my ego here. I have so much enjoyed the human relationship of teaching and learning. In fact, when I used to teach ed psych, I'd say that, teaching is a relationship. It's a relationship between two minds and two hearts. And I've taken that seriously, and some of it has come just naturally to me to want to relate. But also, I've constantly studied pedagogy and andragogy for 30, 40 years.
Whoa.
And one of the really important things that teachers and psychologists are realizing is that emotion drives cognition. I mean, how a student feels in the classroom has a tremendous influence on what they learn. And so I've had the good fortune to be able to capitalize on that.
Wow. Dang, what you just said, emotion drives cognition, man, that is so true. Like, wow. I can't, actually, I won't go into this, but I think that in this time, like with the pandemic, like you can really see that, like this, having to go online and teach classes through this, virtual setting, like, man, that connection that was originally there, like even just hearing like the echoes of a professor's voice bounce off the walls, like there's something about that like makes you feel like you belong. It's like going to a concert almost, like you're watching like a show that captivates you. And then through like Zoom, it's like watching a YouTube video of like, it's just, it's hard to stay focused on it because you got your like home life around you. Like it's so bizarre. I'm interested to see like the psychology that comes like in the future from studying the effects that COVID has had on, because I really think that it's caused a complete paradigm shift. And, I'm hoping that it just makes people realize how important connection is, and we get back to normal and then we just, everybody's hugging everybody and it's just good times, man.
Yeah. I feel so terrible because your last year here and you have to do it almost all virtually.
Oh, excellent empathy. Yes, it's been killing me. I got pretty depressed, which is unlike my personality for a while. But, what's the stupid meme when you get lemons make lemonade? So
yeah, dude.
I've tried to pick it up this semester in my virtual classes, and it's okay, but it's not the same, that's for sure. Just, when you're in a classroom, you have the potential for emotional contagion, and on Zoom, it's almost impossible. Not to mention, I noticed Zoom has made me very egocentric. When I'm in the classroom, I forget about myself. I mean, it's like a state of flow. I'm all there for my students. On damn Zoom, I'm looking at myself like every 2 seconds, right? I look at the students, I look at myself. I look at the students, I look at myself.
Right?
It's like, why? Why am I looking at myself?
It's like having a mirror in front of you while you talk. Like, yeah, that's, wow. Very relatable. Whenever we're in like me and C-Mass have to do like these all sorts of like committee meetings and stuff for ASL-CSC. And when we're in the ISA, it's like this, all the student body presidents from the schools in Idaho meet.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because C-Mass never has his camera on. He just has a picture. And his picture is the most ridiculous picture. I can't even describe it. It's like, I wish, you got to show it to him. It's so strange because, like, it's like a picture of C-Mass. It says he's got, like, a card in front of his, like he's, like, at a table. And he's got a card in front of him. It says C-Mass for Prez. And it's so funny because I'm the president at the moment. And so it's just, like, it just constantly looks like he's trying to, like, oust me. But
it's
then,
a coup.
yeah, but no, it's...
I got that picture my freshman year when I was running against Kaysen.
Oh,
and you know how that went.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to find this picture. You got to see this now.
I just want to know, what is the white, like... It looks like there's, like, a white hologram in the background. Like you got to find it.
I'll find it. Give me a sec.
Anyways, while we're waiting, so you said you went to Central Washington University.
Mm-hmm.
So this was your undergrad for psych?
Yes.
Okay. So where do you go after that?
Well, then I spent a year at a satellite campus of Eastern Washington University, and I switched it up. I decided that psychology skills could be better used as a classroom teacher, that I could reach and help more people than doing individual therapy. That's what I was thinking. So I decided I'd become a school teacher. And so I did that for a year.
All right, show the picture. We got to get
cool
an intermittent pause. This is what we see on Zoom. To our listeners, I can't even describe the picture. I tried, but, like, yeah, you just use your imagination.
So this is me when I was, like, way too young. I didn't have, like, the sideburns or the mustache. I think I just have a goatee in that picture, don't I? Yeah, I just have my goatee, and it's just me and my glasses in this suit that doesn't look like it goes on me, sitting next to the other presidential candidates, and one of their faces were in it, and I posted this, so I didn't want their face to be in it for exposure. So I put a sticker of my own face over it.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it's like I can't help but whenever we're in meetings, I always look at it, I'm like, this is, like, so... It's almost disturbing. Like,
and then when people have the big screen mode on it, like, my face,
I know,
pops up.
It's hilarious.
I used to have a normal picture, and I was like, nah, who cares?
Are you going to keep it next year?
Honestly, I mean, it makes more sense then, so I might.
Or you should just Photoshop over the 4, just say C-Mass is Prez.
C-Mass is Prez instead of the... I know, yeah, that's funny. I might do that, actually.
He's been waiting for this moment for so long.
The power grab of the century.
He really has. Like, yeah, it's well deserved, C-Mass. You really have earned it.
I don't know about that, but I mean, I appreciate that.
No, you really have. It's I'm excited to see what you're going to do next year. But anyways, we got to get back. I want to hear your story, Dr. D.
Yeah, we've only got you for like another hour max.
Satellite campus, Eastern Washington University.
All right.
You decided to become a school teacher.
Yep.
So are you teaching, like, high school? Like, what's...
Well, I actually did, what was that? What do they call that? September experience in a third grade classroom.
Whoa.
And I enjoyed the classes, but then my highly intelligent, wise wife said, you're not going to like being a teacher. You won't be allowed to be creative. You're going to have to do all this testing stuff. The administrators are going to run your life, and you're not going to actually like it. So I tried picturing that, and I trusted her. So I thought, no, going back to psych. So then I bounced to University of Oregon in Eugene.
Whoa.
That was my senior year.
Okay.
And I got back into physiological psych. I decided I wanted to figure out what goes on in the brain that makes people intelligent, what makes them smart. And so I wanted to, was thinking I would end up working on a PhD on that, but had to finish the bachelor's. And I got a super good opportunity. I got into a cat lab. So instead of torturing rats, we tortured live cats.
Moving on up.
Got to make upgrades, I guess.
But I got a really good job in the lab because of my nursing experience.
Oh, yeah.
So I got paid, and I got credits, and I got respect from the professor, who was really neurotic but super smart. She was a Harvard PhD that worked under Hubel and Wiesel, which were the guys that got the Nobel Prize for their vision work on cats. So
Wow.
it was a really good learning experience.
Dang. So, like, what kind of stuff did y'all do with the cats?
Well, we would give them some curare and immobilize them, and then we'd drill a hole through the top of their skull after we gave them anesthetic, of course. And then we would drop an electrode. Oh, my gosh, that was part of my work-study job. I made electrodes that were 25 microns at the tip. Yeah, how about that? Yeah. And those were small enough to drop into a single brain cell.
That's insane.
Yeah. So, yeah, she would figure out where she wanted to go in the brain, and then we'd drill a little hole, drop the electrode in, and then show the cat kitty porn. Or maybe just some slanted lines, and then see if the cell fired or not. So basically, we were mapping the visual system of the cat.
Whoa.
In area 17 of the brain.
That work seems a little controversial. Like, because there's only one way to learn about the brain.
Exactly.
Well, there's other ways to learn about the brain, but there's only one way to really see how it works. And
yeah. Well, I had mixed feelings about it. I mean, I like cats better than rats. and it was hard to rationalize we weren't torturing the cats. I mean, we were gentle and we were careful, but still they were research objects and they had to live in cages. Ooh, that really bothered me. And when they were going to sacrifice one, I said, no, I'll take it home and rehab it. Whoa. And it was a super, super beautiful pure black cat with green eyes, with one of its eyes rotated 90 degrees.
Whoa.
We did that in the lab so that we could see what happened in the visual cortex when that happened. And but I couldn't rehab him. I mean, he grew up in a cage. You don't know how to live out in the world. And I tried my best.
Dang.
That's terrible.
It was sad. Yeah. I have very mixed feelings about doing procedures on animals.
Yeah, it's like one of those gray areas where it's like you're learning and it really does contribute to the literature. I mean, like you look at a lot of the knowledge we have about the brain, and it's because of these things. But it's like, it's almost like a sacrifice.
Well, in our case, I felt fairly morally rationalized because our goal was to understand how to restore sight in human infants that were born blind. Because the visual pathways in a cat are very similar to a human. So if we could figure out exactly what was going on in a cat, it would give us some tools to how to help cure blindness in babies, human babies.
Dang, that's beautiful.
But, I've been told I'm species-centric before, thinking humans are cooler than other animals, but
I think we're pretty cool.
When we're good, we're the best animal on the planet, and when we're bad, we're the worst animal on the planet. But
that's
a good place to sit.
Gotta find the middle ground. Dang, that's crazy. Have you ever heard of Andrew Huberman? He does research on like restoring vision in blind people. He's a professor at Stanford.
Wow, cool.
But he has some really interesting findings. He's like using like these like light therapies, where like they do different sequences of like flashing lights, and like they're finding that it restores vision for like people who are colorblind and stuff. I forget the like exact details of the studies he's done, but like they're like making some groundbreaking work on restoring vision.
That's great.
You should look into it. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's all because of the early cat studies from the 70s. I just want you to know that.
It's all because of the work.
I know, right? That's crazy. That is crazy. So you're working on cats. This is more of like a physiological psych.
Yeah, very much.
So where you go from here? You're at U of O.
Right. Well, we were allowed as seniors to take a graduate level class if we wanted to for senior level credit. And so I took an advanced physiological psych class from a monkey dude. I didn't work on the monkeys, thank God. But he was teaching the class, and I was just eating it up. And then one day he said, well, how many of you want to get a job in this field? And bang, up goes my hand. And he says, well, where do you think you'll do that? He says there's no jobs in industry, and only the largest universities can afford the labs. So, is that what you want to do? And I thought, I'm married and I have kids, and I can't exactly follow my dream if I can't get a job because I kind of got some responsibilities.
Yeah, dude, dang. I didn't know that you were married and had kids at this time. That's great.
Yeah. Undergrad life with family is
I can't even
adds
imagine.
on to the challenge a bit.
Jeez.
Yeah, no kidding.
So what did you do?
Well, I thought, okay, I love school and I love psychology, and every school district in America has to hire a school psychologist, so why don't I go to grad school in school psychology? Which sounded like a great idea because, I knew there was counselors, but I thought, school psychologist sounds so much cooler than a counselor, right? And I thought, they'd be doing the deep therapy. And so I went to grad school at University of Oregon in school psych. But if you guys think about grad school sometime, I would look into what the field actually does, because it turns out a school psychologist is the gatekeeper of special ed. They spend their entire life doing three things. They assess kids with learning problems. They spend a third of the day writing a report about that problem, and they spend a third of the day calling meetings to help tell parents and teachers and principals how to help that kid. Which is good, right? But, boring.
Yeah.
That's good work, just not for you.
Man, I could have used you growing up.
I was like, but how stupid could I be? Put all that energy and money into going to a particular kind of grad school and not even really know what a school psychologist did.
So you practiced as a school psychologist?
I did.
How long did you do that?
Well, I got a super good opportunity, another one of those things that really helped me grow up, which was there was someone just finishing her PhD in that same department, but not in school psych, in like school administration. And she was the vice principal of the tribal schools for the Yakima Nation.
Oh, cool.
And the Yakimas had a high school, a junior high, and 3 Head Start sites. And she wanted to hire a school psychologist to work on those sites.
Wow.
And she met me and hired me. So that was super cool. And that was a real education, getting to be a fiscal Yakima. And
Yeah, dude.
sometimes I get to be the only person in the room that was white. That's an educational
Yeah, it
experience when
is.
you're from a dominant culture.
Yeah, it really is.
It was, I learned a lot, and hopefully I helped a few students.
That's awesome, dude. Man, I want you to meet my bandmate with Tolan. He's actually like, he's from, he's like part Yakima, part Nez Perce. But man, he's told me some crazy stories. That's like, I had no idea. Like, it's,
Yeah.
I just did not know that there was like other ways of living than my own. It's really, like you said, it's a really eye-opening experience to step outside of a dominating culture.
You gotta remember, though, the Neep, who are notoriously good storytellers, you gotta watch out for him.
Hey, I'd say I'm a decent storyteller as well. So it's funny, actually. We'll go back and forth, and we'll look at the clock, and we'll be up till like 7 in the morning, and just be like, oh no, I got school tomorrow.
School in an hour.
I look forward to meeting Matolan. That's a very auspicious name. He's named after a very famous Nez Perce warrior.
Yeah, he talks about that.
Yeah, and I've had several musicians mention him to me.
Really?
Well, Macio's met him, and Jordan Tomzik had met him.
Okay.
And
Dang, I didn't know you know Jordan. Oh, okay, I'm thinking of a different Jordan. Oh, the Jordan that, wasn't he, like he lives in Corvallis now, right?
he does.
Okay, yeah,
Jordan.
yeah, we've jammed together a couple times, actually.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, oh yeah.
That's
Actually, when I first
crazy.
met you, we talked a little bit about
Yeah,
Jordan. Bless his
man,
heart.
I need to figure out what he's doing these days.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back on track. Though.
Okay.
I do need to reach out to him. If you have his phone number, I'm going to have to get that from you.
I do.
But, okay, so you're at the Yakima reservation.
Right. So I worked for the tribe in their tribal schools for 3 years, and during that time, there's a small university on the Yakima Reservation called Heritage. And I was thinking, well, someday I might want to do my PhD, and it would be good if I got some teaching experience and look good on my resume. So I'm going to go offer to be a teaching assistant in one of their college classes for free, just to get the experience. So I went out there and was interviewed by the division chair, and he said, well, you know what? We actually need to hire an adjunct. How would you like to teach a developmental psychology class at night for money?
Whoa.
And I was like, oh, yeah. Now you're talking. So I did that, and I thought, I love this. This is what I really want to do.
Heck yeah. Wow, it's crazy. And probably 40 years later or so, you were teaching. Wait,
Yeah.
okay, so what year is this?
This would have been 83. Yeah, I think I taught my first college class in 83.
Whoa, let me do the math here. It's like 40 years.
It's getting close, isn't it?
Wow, that's
Whoa.
crazy.
Yeah.
Dang, yeah.
Holy smoke.
To the listeners, I took developmental psych with, and so did you, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Let me just say, that's one of my favorite classes that we ever took. I have that textbook still. And anytime someone's talking about, developmental kind of topics, I'll always just whip it out and, do my best Diessner impersonation. Man, yeah, that's crazy. So Heritage University was your first.
That was my first gig.
So where do we go from here?
Well, then after I decided that I really wanted to be a college professor, I thought about, well, what do I want to focus on and where do I want to go? And I'd always been very impressed with Lawrence Kohlberg's work on moral reasoning. So I thought, okay, if I shoot for the stars, I'd like to go work with him and get my PhD under him. I thought, but how realistic is that for a little country boy from Yakima, Washington, go to Harvard and work with Kohlberg? So I thought, I should apply somewhere else too. So I applied to University of Oregon in their PhD program, but Harvard let me in. So
Whoa.
gave me a half scholarship.
That's crazy.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
thank God for that half scholarship, because that way I could get my loans paid off by the time I was 50 instead of 60.
You did it.
I did, yes.
Wow.
I was about to ask, this sounds really expensive.
Yes. I once again, having a family from undergrad on, I just racked up the loans.
Man,
So
I'm right there with you.
I had a lot of money to pay back. But I noticed one thing about paying back student loans. If you end up in a field that you love, you don't regret it. I mean, it's like we were talking about that last weekend. If you're working in a field you love, you've pretty much won the game.
Yeah, dude. Heck yeah. That's facts. At least that's how I rationalize whenever I get my student loan report. I just tell myself, well, I love what I'm studying. So I think people have wasted more money on dumber things. So
That's true.
You can be sure of that.
yeah, we're doing all right.
Yeah.
So Lawrence Kohlberg, that's a pretty big name in psychology. I mean, he's the guy who did moral development, right? Like the
He is, yeah.
instrumental versus
Yeah.
what is it? He kind of laid the framework. It goes from basically in a person's life, like the developmental, like the moral kind of attitudes they have. I don't remember them exactly, but I remember you start out kind of working on a basis of punishment versus
That's true. He did call the first stage punishment orientation, and second stage was the one you already mentioned, instrumental.
That's right.
So
Was this in Dev Psych? You taught this, right?
you had 2 weeks of this.
Okay, because I was I vaguely remember these terms.
Yeah. We do about a couple of weeks, a little case study, a little lecture, but
Yeah. The nice boy, nice girl stage or whatever. It's
stage
I
3,
scratch your back, you scratch mine,
Yeah.
and then what is it? The principal or it's like a principal stage where you kind of follow or systematic, right?
Yeah, the systemic stage. That's a mature adult. That's your typical stage of attorneys and physicians. So it's a fairly advanced stage for our culture.
It's kind of based on following the established laws and whatnot, right?
It is sometimes called the law and order stage. That's true.
Whoa. So, and then you move on from that though to print or the principle,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And that's kind of like where you
Absolutely.
start to go beyond like what is established, and you are able to question, like, is this like, why is this a law? You
Yes,
know, like, why is this the
exactly.
way things are?
Yes, it's the required stage for a Supreme Court justice, right? Because they have to ask, is this law just? And you can't just use the laws that are already there to decide, right? You have to use moral principles to determine whether a concrete rule is justice or not.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
Do you believe the universal principle one?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
People like MLK and Gandhi, and I think John Lennon would.
Yeah, it's a little challenging to determine someone's stage historically.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like when psychologists started coming out and saying, oh, Trump's a narcissist, and right away APA said, wait a minute, you can't be making diagnoses of people based on television. They have to be in your office, and you have to do a professional interview to determine these things.
What if when they were saying that they were following the systemic, following the rules?
Yeah.
Dang, that's cool, man. So you were working with Kohlberg. Was this before or after he kind of came up with this? What is that theory called? Or like, what's?
Stages of moral reasoning.
Okay, so is that established when you met him, or was?
Oh, yeah.
Was this, okay.
Yeah, no, I'd been reading about it since I was an undergrad. So he founded the theory in his PhD in the late 50s.
Whoa.
And then it started getting pretty well known in the 60s. And by the 70s, he was the fifth most cited psychologist in history.
Wow.
Yeah, so it caught on.
Where do you rank on that?
Well, if you look at beauty literature, you'll see Diessner's name.
Well, I'm not quite up to 20,000 hits on ResearchGate yet, but you could go check it out and add one more.
I think I might. By the way, you're not slick. That book you had us buy had your name on it. That psych, it had your name on the back.
You should read his Psych and Beauty book. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I think I have access to it. Actually, you sent it to me a year and a half ago.
Wow.
I think so. I remember.
really love you.
I hope so. I hope you didn't just send it to everyone and be like, this is
No
just
way.
for you.
No way.
I think you could.
No, when it first came out, it was, I think, $60 or $70 in e-version on Amazon. Now it's hardcover, softcover, and e-version, and the price has dropped.
Man, I remember reading a section out of that book, and it was talking about listening to, is it like the Four Seasons or something? It was like it was like a symphony that like described like the creation of Earth and like the progression. I listened to it one night, and I was like, this is crazy, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
so beautiful.
Yeah, that's Gustav Mahler.
That's what it- yeah.
He is kind of the crowning endpoint of the whole Romantic period. I mean, really, you can kind of bookend it. You know, Beethoven started it, and Mahler kind of did the definitive end. I mean, there's still some great Romantic period composers after Mahler, but Mahler was deep.
Just peak.
Deep.
Man. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
What was that called again? It's
I think it's his Fifth Symphony.
and
I can't remember the name of it.
I remember, there's like a song
I'm not
like
even sure it's the fifth.
songs about like rocks and stuff, and like it's crazy
Yeah,
because
it is.
this is what I love about I'm not very well versed in like classical music. That's something that I'm trying to branch into, but I love that like these songs have themes that with no lyrics, so like it's just this instrumental interpretation of like some concepts. Like, how do you conceive that? And how do humans even like how did we just decide like this is a thing we do to describe? Like, it makes no sense, but it's so beautiful. I just love it.
Yeah, that is our big claim to fame on this planet is we're abstract, symbolic thinkers, and it doesn't seem like any other creatures are. They can think symbolically, like border collies and gorillas can think in concrete operations. I mean, they're smart as 10-year-olds, humans.
That's crazy.
But no other creatures seem to get to that abstract level of thinking that we can.
Maybe down the Marianas Trench, there's some advanced society octopi that are just
That's right.
making symphonies with their,
Unexpected
and they have
person.
8 tentacles. I mean, they could be making some crazy stuff.
Yeah, octopi are awfully intelligent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to go back to Kohlberg, though. I heard a rumor that Lawrence Kohlberg gave you a car. Is this true?
yeah, he did.
How? Okay, so you must have, like, were you, like, so you knew Kohlberg then. You'd have to have, like, a pretty close relationship with him to get a car from him, would you say?
Well, yeah, for a student, we were pretty tight.
That's crazy, dude.
Did you receive the car or buy the car?
Well, Boston Metro is an extremely expensive place to live. And to park my car, just to get a spot to park my car, would have cost as much as what rent on a house costs here.
What?
So I had to park my car in the neighboring suburb and then walk like 2 miles to it whenever I wanted to use it. But then also it's an extremely expensive place to live besides driveways. So I had to sell the car for 1 month's rent.
Oh,
Wow.
And when he found that out, he was just really compassionate and said, well, do you need a car? I said, well, it would be nice. He goes, well, I got old beat up Fiat. You want that? I said, yeah, that'd be great. He just, yeah, I mean, there was no sale, no slips, no titles. He just gave me the keys and said, this is where the car parked. It's yours.
Whoa. That's crazy, man. You're just driving in Lawrence Kohlberg's car. Like, that has to be just such a trip.
Yeah.
So what was he like?
Well, he was quite a brilliant thinker. You know, the psychology's taken this very heavy empirical turn, which I'm not negative about.
Sure.
But, you know, psychologists, they really want to be scientists, you know, and who can blame them? Scientists are pretty cool. But, you know, the downside is it's reductionistic, you know. We're reducing people to objects,
Yeah.
we're reducing them to numbers.
Right.
And that can be useful. You know, you just got to keep in mind that's what you're doing, maybe.
Wouldn't that just defeat the purpose of psychology then? Since it's supposed to be a one-on-one kind of exploration.
There's a huge split between clinical psychologists and research psychologists because of that, what you're saying, right? Clinical psychologists are focused on, you know, the development of the human being as a human psyche. And, you know, researchers want to, you know, we got to take it apart and break it down into little researchable units. And
Right.
But Kohlberg was cool because he was a deep thinker. He's the only psychologist I know, for instance, that published in the Journal of Philosophy. I mean, the Journal of Philosophy. That's, you know, thinking and philosophy, it's actually a big problem for Americans in general. You know, we have a very technological, engineering-oriented culture. And it's kind of a joke. Like, you go get a PhD. You remember what a PhD stands for? What do those initials mean?
Philosophy.
Yeah. Doctor of Philosophy of Biology, Doctor of Philosophy of Chemistry, Doctor of Philosophy of Engineering. And how many philosophy classes did those people take when they got their doctorate?
Ooh.
Probably 0.
Yeah, probably 0. Exactly.
Man, you need that
I
philosophy.
mean, they didn't even take a philosophy of science class to, you know, give you some existential angst, like finding out we don't really understand cause and effect, and we don't know how to prove something's caused something.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think that's important to keep the humility attitude for scientists.
Oh, absolutely. You know, that reminds me of William James. I love William James because he's considered to be a great psychologist. I mean, he created institutional psychology in America, which I also wanted to know. Isn't the School of Psychology at Harvard called the William James School of Psychology?
The building is William James Hall.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
He's such a cool dude because he's so honest, you know. And you look at where he's cited, and it's so so much of his work is so philosophical, and the questions he asks, I love that he never really says this is the way it is. It's just this is the way it could be. We need to think about all the different options. And I think that's where like having like philosophical background really comes into play.
Yes, very important.
So Kohlberg, he's philosophical in thought.
He is.
That's crazy.
Yes, he is.
That's why I really liked having you as a teacher, because it's like I really enjoy having somebody who has different explanations, because I'm a weird kind of different. Even people who listen to this, like, they're just probably thinking, this guy is just nuts.
I'm shaking my head right now.
There's a method to my madness, and it's because, like, we need philosophy. We need that kind of back and forth of things that we don't know. Like, it's really important, I think. So I just want to thank you for kind of carrying on that legacy, and because it makes
Appreciate that.
like having like going to college when you grow up in a certain setting, like you were saying, like the American kind of system is very engineered, like kind of strap on the boots and get out there. And like that's kind of like what I grew up in, and I never felt right in that. And so like to come to a school and have like teachers like you who accept students like me, it's a nice feeling, because like we go our whole lives just being told you're crazy, and then you finally find a place where like it works out, and it's
That crazy's
nice.
good.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's super cool, man. So how long were you working with Kohlberg?
Well, that was a year and a half. And then he committed suicide.
Oh.
That was a little stressful.
Yeah.
Well, was that when you were working under him?
Yeah.
Oh.
Man.
Well, I'm sure that wasn't easy for you.
It's good empathy. That summarizes it. It was not easy.
Dang,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, both in emotional and practical ways. Yeah.
Wow.
So what did you do after that then? What can you do after that?
Yeah. He'd had a long battle with depression, and over many years. I'm sure there was some genetic inputs there, but everything's multi-causal. I visited him in the involuntary psych ward a few days before he died. He eventually got out on leave for a day, and get this is a pretty romantic way to kill yourself. It's the middle of winter, and the temperatures are sub-zero, and he drives out to the ocean and just keeps on walking into the ocean.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrible, but I mean...
Yeah, it was, especially because they didn't find his body for weeks. And so it was a big question mark. What happened?
Dang,
It was
that's so sad.
It was a tough time.
man. It's really amazing how such brilliant people can really go to such dark places. And I think that going into those dark places really inspires a lot of the thoughts and philosophies that they come up with. I mean, it has to, because I think the more you know, like they say, like knowledge is power, but it's like also, it's almost kind of a burden, because it makes you like question and like, it's just like, man, there's just so much. Like, how do we make sense of this? And so that's really tough. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, I don't want to get you off subject, but I feel like I would not be committing my civic duty if I didn't ask you some LC questions.
Oh, cool.
Because I'm sure whoever's listening right now is like, this is great, but I want to know about LC. And we are on the LC radio station.
That makes
I
sense.
do like this story, though. If we could talk all night, I would. But,
You'll have to come on a hike with us sometime.
there you go. I'll just walk behind you guys while you're talking.
Wow, that'd make a great podcast. Just a hike podcast. You hear all the birds.
Until we're like, into the mic, like breathing all night. So, 33 years at LC. Do you include the COVID year into that 33? You're technically not at LC.
I do. It was a highly relevant year. It was a little demoralizing. Yeah.
Oh, man.
It was like you say, everything's multi-causal, but it kind of demoralized me, which was kind of one of the factors that made me want to retire.
Oh, no. You're telling me COVID made you retire?
It's a factor.
That's not good.
No, it's not.
So why did you go online, first off? Because a lot of profs stayed on campus, but you went online.
Yeah. Well, I started out last August doing the simultaneous half my class in the classroom socially distanced and half my class on Zoom.
Ugh.
Yeah, we kind of universally have decided, I think, the faculty, that that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I did my best, and it was a joy for me to be in the classroom. But I'm very much in love with my wife, who has 3 risk factors for dying from COVID. Mm-hmm. And, students started testing positive that were in my class, and students started, all of a sudden somebody sitting closer to me than you would start coughing, and then I thought, boy, handwriting's on the wall. I do not want to be the person to kill my beloved Wendy. Wow. So I think I'm going to have to go all online. So
that sucks.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was a heartbreaker.
At least you have the vaccine now, so you can be a lot safer. It's a little too late. I mean, you're leaving already.
Yeah.
That is beautiful, though. Like, I mean, it's like, it's crazy because I was right there with it. Like, I was in these classes. In fact, I was taking Psych of Beauty with Dr. Diessner, like before COVID, like it was like before we even knew COVID was going to be like what it was. And so like we, part of that class is that we had to go talk to patients at a nursing home. And so like when like COVID just started creeping in, and there was like eventually it's like first case in Washington, and we're all just like, what's going on here, And so eventually, like, it's just weird that the progression of how it all unfolded. And like I remember, like you talked about being demoralized. Like, man, I think it was just a collective like demoralizing. It still is, man. Like I go downtown and stuff, and I just see like I can just hear like just like this. Like from everybody you walk past, and I'm like, man, we got to get through this, man, because it's tough. But I'll never forget, like during the heat of COVID, I was in Tennessee, and you and I were emailing each other, and I remember talking to you about the trees blooming in the spring, and I was like sent you a picture of like this beautiful, I think it was like a cherry blossom or something like that, and you're all telling me what kind of tree it was, and it's just crazy that, we were all on this journey together. I think that, like, when we look back at it, I know myself, like, when I'm an old man, I'd be like, dude, like, Dr. Diessner, I'll be citing you if I'm teaching. I'll be like, this guy, Dr. Diessner, man, y'all really gotta know his story. Because, man, we're gonna miss you so much, to say the least. I could go on, like, a whole hour-long speech about the impact you made, but really, like, you're awesome, dude, man.
You're great. You're the best. So aside from COVID, because we could talk about COVID all day. So aside from that, we'll call it 32 and like 3/4 of a year. What was like a high point for you? Like, would you consider those years like the best years spent, like working here with students, or was this just like another job for you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was feeling I know the answer, but I had to check.
Yeah. No, this is more than a job or a career to me. Is a calling. I mean, I'd have done it for no pay. And in fact, for quite a while, Socrates was my hero. And in my 40s, I was going through my Plato stage and reading all his dialogues, and I was totally in love with Socrates. It made my wife very nervous because Socrates would refuse to take money for teaching. He said it might corrupt him. He wants to stay pure. Made my wife really nervous. Don't do that, Rhett. We need to pay the bills. So yeah, no, I've loved teaching at LC, and students have been really wonderful, and salt of the earth kind of people. So it's been great.
There's been a lot of changes at LC. I mean, just the whole time. Was there one that you particularly didn't like? Any change? I mean, what are they going to do? Fire you? Has there just been something that I'm curious to know from people that have been here longer, like what you think about these changes?
Well, I'll tell you something funny that's tangential to that. So I was on faculty senate for 2 terms for 6 years. And I took that role very seriously, and I really was dedicated to the college at all levels. And I constantly thought, because, well, as you guys have noticed, being involved in, I don't want to say politics exactly.
Oh, you can say politics. You can say politics.
Something like that. And I guess, faculty senators are too. And so one of the things that I really agreed with Kohlberg about was that Americans give a lot of lip service to democracy, right? I mean, if you think about it, you were brainwashed from first grade to think democracy was the best form of government. I doubt you've spent a lot of time, well, you guys are thinkers, maybe you have, but most people spend no time asking themselves, is democracy really a good form of government or not? And there are some criticisms of it, but what Kohlberg pointed out was, if we really think it's so great, how come our businesses aren't democratic? How come our school systems aren't democratic? How come our religious institutions aren't democratic? If we really think this is the best form of government, why aren't all our institutions, from the economy to the legal system, democratic? And he actually launched something in schools that I did my dissertation on, which he called the Just Community, which was where teachers and students all had one vote, and everything was open. You could vote on grades, objectives, course topics, everything. Because what he thought was that the most important thing to learn is to take responsibility, use your autonomy in a democracy for the whole collective.
That's dangerous.
It sounds scary, doesn't it? So one time in faculty senate, I stood up and I said, I think we should seriously consider turning LCSC into a democracy and have a parliament where everybody's represented. You don't got student government over there and faculty government over here. You have a government that's constituted by faculty members, students, administrators, physical plant workers, restaurant workers, equal representation, one vote. Community decides on everything that happens at LC.
I'm sure that worked out great for you.
Yeah, you can guess what happened after I said that. I'm not a courageous person. I was expecting to take a beating, but actually I got what is worse than a beating. What's worse than a beating?
Silence.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that is me at every meeting. Man,
nobody said anything.
Dude, that is the worst. It really is. I know exactly how you feel. You can ask C-Mass. I'll try to give some inspirational speech, because this year has just been so tough. Everybody's down. It's we are tasked with serving the needs of the students, and clearly our students are struggling. Everybody is. And so I'll try to give a pep talk or something like that, or give some sort of you know what, we did a really good job or something, and then just just crickets, man. And it's just man.
It's really like we can do this, guys, and then you're finally done. I'm like, yeah, so anyway, we gotta get working on
C-Mass catalyzes that experience. It's the perfect, it's great.
Well, I couldn't imagine that idea would go anywhere, Dr. D. That's not beneficial for...
I think it's beautiful.
It's great. That idea would be great for about 90% of the people, but the other 10% can't really afford that. So
I just imagine what the meeting processes would look like. That would be so crazy if everybody was on equal playing ground.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if that makes any sense though, voting on curriculum.
The dumbest person in school is yeah, man, I really think that all these classes are dumb, man. And that could be yeah, I see where you're coming from. But at the same time, there are a lot of thinkers that they do deserve some input.
But are there 51% thinkers? in a given group. That's what I want to know.
I think that the hard thing would be coming to an agreement on things.
Yeah,
like
sure it would be.
But it already is hard to come to agreement on things like with what we got now, you know?
Real democracy, real consensus making is a big time commitment, and it's a big heart commitment. I mean, to be a good consulter, you have to become egoless, you have to become selfless, you have to care about the group more than your own opinion. But that's such a great milieu to develop those abilities. But like you were saying, that was the first real criticism of democracy I ever heard, was when Plato basically says, whoa, democracy is ruled by the 50th percentile.
Yeah.
And is that really who we want ruling us? Don't we want a philosopher king? Don't we want a brilliant person that's really moral running our country? I was like, Plato, you're making some sense.
Wow.
That's dangerous, because I guarantee you in any given group, at least 50% of the people there are self-interested. I mean, that's something to consider. That's what I would say. I would say that probably wouldn't work very well, but it's a decent thought experiment. I mean, you might disagree, but
We need society simulators.
Well, you know, if you don't try to follow your idealism, nothing's going to change for the better. And, you know, failed experiments can be a lot better than no experiment.
that's true.
Yeah,
At least we'll learn something.
Yeah, exactly. They're
Yeah.
I think that they're crucial to learning, like more so than success. I think that success, like when I do successful stuff, like I'm like, oh, cool, like, you know, thank God that's over and that worked out. But when I fail, I'm like, I'll sit and I'll think about it and I'll just be like, dang, how can I do this right next time, you know? And then, yeah, it's essential.
I don't know if I do that at all.
Well, you're gonna have to next year, partner.
I don't fail. I might, though.
Servant leadership.
I think failures are temporary, you know, like unless you make them permanent. If failures are only permanent if you let them break you, you know, but you can always rectify it with even more beauty, I think.
The key is the victories are my victories. The losses are our losses. Look at what we've lost today. No. So, I've got a good one for you.
Okay.
Do you have any regrets from LC?
Regrets.
Yeah, you're like, wow, I sure wish I didn't do that, or I sure wish I didn't give up on blank, or...
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I had two huge regrets come up. One relatively recently and one from 20 years ago. And I'm not going to talk about either one.
I like that. But they do exist. I was wondering, because you just seem like someone that just, it is what it is.
Well, you know, I worry about people that say, and I have no regrets, because it sort of meant they didn't lead a moral life. I mean, I've made some big mistakes, and I regret those mistakes. Now, does that mean those mistakes aren't part of me, that I didn't learn from them, that, you know, every life is going to have some misery and some beauty? Yeah, absolutely. They help make me an authentic person. But, yeah, I still regret them. I wish I hadn't done it.
Wow, that was a great idea.
Man, I feel you. All right, well, how about this? You do research around here. For those of you listeners who don't know, he's done some pretty cool stuff. I want to know what your favorite project was.
And why the tree walk?
Yeah. Well, I have to say the Tree Walk project was my favorite because, I hadn't thought of about regrets, but here's a regret I could talk about, is that I wish my lifetime research program had been more actionable. Something that gets in the research literature that gives advice to people how to live a better life that has empirical data behind it. A lot of my stuff has been kind of theoretical. I mean, about something I think is very important. I mean, beauty is so much more important than most people realize. But yeah, the Tree Walk project was super cool because, we were thinking, students are stressed, depression rates, anxiety rates are up astronomically on campuses the last 15 years. 1 in 5 to 1 in 4 college students are on psychotropic meds. 30% see the college counselors. I mean, it's
This was before COVID.
Right, exactly. Yes,
BC.
as you're implying, it has
Wow,
not
BC,
gotten
yeah.
better in the last year.
Absolutely.
So the Tree Walk project was actionable in the sense it's like, hey, the student has 10 or 15 minutes between class. Is there something they could do that's enjoyable that will also reduce stress? And so we were able to show that, if a person can just get that brief connect with nature mindfully kind of event and, take their stress levels down.
Yeah, dude. That's a fun one.
I had a question about the tree walk, but I didn't want you to think I was criticizing the tree walk. So I remember when I went on the tree walk, and the reason I went on the tree walk is because we got out of class 5 minutes early to start the tree walk. I was wondering if that could have influenced your data at all, because people were already in a good mood to get out early. There was a big group who did
You're a
that.
good scientist for an English major, dude.
Thanks.
Well, this is where control group comes in. So we had multiple control groups. And so there were also students that got out of class and did a tree walk, but it had nothing to do with mindfulness and focusing on their sensory systems and enjoying nature. So, but we had the same pre-post test, so we could see, in other words, the random assignment balanced out the factor of getting out of class early. So it was an equal effect on the experimental group and control group.
Okay, I was wondering about that because I was like, that seems like it could have skewed the data a little bit.
Yeah, it could.
Because I was one of the ones that got out early, so I was like, I'm in a great mood right now. This is awesome.
Do you remember which condition you were in?
What condition I was in?
Like, were you being told stuff like, now feel the tree, sniff the tree kind of thing, or was it
There was
this
that
tree
group?
comes from
I think I was in the tree comes from group.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of the control groups. So you got tree facts. This tree is a linden tree. This tree is very good for carving on. This tree comes from...
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
I was with someone else who was in it, or I had stopped by and someone else was doing the other one. So I was like, that's interesting. Because they were doing, I was like, I didn't get to smell the tree. I would have loved to smell the tree. They didn't ask.
That was one of the funnest things that I got to participate in, I think. It was because I learned a lot about the trees just repeating those walkthroughs.
Wait, did you give the walkthrough?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's one of them.
Oh, okay, because I was like, I didn't see you there.
Research assistant. Trusty research assistant.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, I remember sniffing the Dawn Redwood. It was, man, good times. But yeah, it's crazy that, next week we're doing a virtual thing to kind of bring that back, aren't we? With Nancy?
Well, something like that, yeah.
I really think that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Even if, it's not a huge thing, I think it could have a really cool cult following. I know I'll use it. It's hearing your voice say that would be sick, dude.
Well, I really wanted to actually put plaques out marking the route with little informational brochures, and Dr. Hansen was down with that, and it would have been kind of a cool thing, and could even been kind of a learning thing. We could have put the actual citation to the publication, etc., on it. But something went awry and it didn't get published.
It didn't get published?
Yeah, it didn't even get sent to the publisher. Yeah.
I was always wondering about that.
Was that your decision?
New topic.
Yes.
Is it still accessible, even though it's not published?
The research was internally valid. Yeah.
Okay.
It was. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, almost all research projects, of course, have their limitations. In fact, research papers all have a subsection called limitations. I mean, you can't do perfect research. But in vivo research, real life research, out there with real people, not in a lab, right? There's a lot of factors and forces that can influence it, and but nonetheless, it was still, because of the way we use the control groups, internally valid. So
I see.
Well, you're talking to two people who work in student government, and you're talking about putting out plaques there. I feel like this is something that we could still do.
We could.
Looks like
I got
we could use a
a
hand.
little demoralized about it. But another resource in this regard is the Arboretum Committee. We have a very active and cool Arboretum Committee that's chaired by Carrie Kaiser. And she's already put together a beautiful half-hour tree walk, or maybe if it's even an hour. She's made a nice brochure for it and does a whole circumference of the campus and explaining trees. It's really cool. But this one we did, this was to be the brief one. I mean, the longer one's cool, right? More time in nature, more time with greenness, better it's going to be. But we were kind of testing the shorter limits. How short could we do something and still be effective? In the true engineering American way.
Okay.
Let's be in a hurry to relax.
Wow.
We have this long to relax. Let's get on it.
That needs to be on a plaque itself. I'm in a hurry to relax. Beautiful. Dr. Diessner, I want to know, I've never met anybody who likes trees more than you. It's contagious. I never met somebody who, valued sniffing trees. And I would have thought it was crazy, but now every time I see a tree, I'm sniffing it, dude. I'm sniffing it. I'm on the bark, and experiencing that tree. How did you get to this passion? I really want to know.
Well, actually the psychological mechanism that you just mentioned, which is observational learning, right? You've watched me and feel connected to me, and that's influenced you. Well, I had a dad that was a nature boy. He actually got a bachelor's in forestry, and he didn't get a job in the field, so he worked 5 days a week at an unpleasant job so he could live for his weekends. Sound like many Americans do, but he loved his weekends, and I got a lot of quality time in the woods. And so he wasn't a talker, but in fact, I wrote a paper that was published on EcoPsych about him called My Father's Gait. And, just walking with him, and you just watch. What does he look at? What changes his facial expression?
Whoa.
Right? And it became very apparent, without even processing it consciously, that trees are cool.
That is beautiful.
So that was, I had some early embedded experiences for that.
Well, I know some people in the student government who you might want to get in touch with if you're looking to maybe still do this plaque idea, maybe have these recordings a little more accessible to everyone. I have a feeling that some funding could be provided.
Ooh, that sounds good.
I think you should look into it. If you'll be the community member then on the Arboretum Committee, right?
As a matter of fact, that's true. Yes, I've already been selected to do that. I will be
I couldn't think of anybody else who'd be better for it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So, if it's still something that you're interested in doing, I think I know a guy.
I am, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can still kind of stop by those committee meetings and just see what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
The ex-president.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, I had one more thing about LC. Look at me.
Who's your favorite student of all time?
Yeah, who is it? And why is it Gabe? Or me? Why is it me?
Well, it's funny that you guys mentioned that. Happening to be my two most favorite students that I've ever had. And, it's mostly because of your physical beauty, but I try to not let that distract me and pay attention to your hearts.
Thank you.
Wow, we really appreciate that.
I needed that today.
Sam.
I looked in a mirror earlier today, like, wow, I really showed up like this today to school.
I do that every day.
Yeah.
On the Zoom call, looking at yourself. Man. Wow. Well, I appreciate that. I would say the same about you whenever you're teaching.
So, I remember my question now. So, what legacy do you want to leave here? Because, you're leaving. But you're not really going to be gone. But you'll be gone. So what kind of legacy did you want to leave, for yourself, or maybe even just for LC as a whole, or the psych department? What were you trying to do, and do you feel that it has been accomplished? Does that make sense?
It does. It makes too much sense. You're making me feel guilty.
Well, no, that's okay. Because you still have that 30-minute Zoom thing later next week or the week after.
Oh, the last lecture.
Yeah, you can save all the heartfelt moments for then, but...
Yeah. I'm wondering if I'm going to tear up on the last slide on that one. What legacy? Well, my favorite philosopher of education is Nell Noddings from Stanford. And she has written about something near and dear to my heart that I used to actually use her book as a textbook when I taught Ed Psych. And it's on caring. And she says the most important thing that a human can learn to do is to care for others. But her classic book is broken up into sections on caring for self, caring for the natural world, caring for distant others, caring for the close others. And, caring is a nice kind of philosophical psychology word that really means love. But, love's kind of mushy and hard to define. And she wanted caring to be a concrete behavior that you do. And I think that should be the subtext of all teaching. We got lots of knowledge for our students to learn, and knowledge is golden, right? I mean, I'm a dedicated lifelong learner. I read nonstop, I study nonstop, peer-reviewed articles, write every day. But the bottom line is we need a world full of love, and it should be the central subtext of every course. And just like we started out talking about, like emotions in the classroom, when students feel like their professor really cares about them, that sets up a whole dynamic of learning. It literally changes the brain. And so
I couldn't agree with you more.
Go for.
I think that you've done it.
Do you feel like you've accomplished that goal? Or at least yourself?
I'm a pretty harsh critic, self-critic. I keep that balanced, right? I don't mope around. But when you set a goal for yourself to be selfless and really love people, it becomes so apparent how selfish you are. So that's a challenge for me. I'm a very hedonistic, self-centered person who's trying really hard not to be that way.
Wow,
You're telling me.
Man, that is, honestly, though, as a not harsh critic of you, I have to say that I do feel like you really do care. Like, it's very apparent.
Yes.
I think that, and it's contagious, too. That's what's important. I was talking to you about this last weekend. It's like, being a teacher, like, people think that, or a lot of people think that it's just in the classroom, but it extends beyond just the classroom, and it literally, it's like on its, what's the word, temporal, like time, goes with time, where, like, the people that you teach, like, it just keeps going. It's literally contagious. Like, what you teach, like, what you've taught me, like, I will subconsciously and probably consciously teach that to students in the future, and it's like, that could be like 60 years from now, that like you are somehow in a metaphysical realm getting a lecture from Dr. Diessner. Like, and to me, that's what makes me want to be a teacher.
That's a beautiful image. I appreciate that, Gabe.
It
touches my heart.
Man, I'm saying that, like, seriously, I don't know if you realize, like, it's you. I think that, honestly, I really think that there needs to be a statue of you here.
At the very least, a plaque. It can be right next to the statue of me out there, next to the Obey sign.
C-Mass always talks about that. His main goal is getting a statue of himself.
Statue, the Obey signs, Big Brother is watching, or is it just C-Mass is watching?
This guy. No.
I think you've accomplished that goal, at least for yourself. I hope it rubs off on everyone. I think it has to some extent.
All right.
I think there's a lot of work to be done, though. Not for you. I think there's a lot of work to be done across all campuses in that regard.
We need more Rhett Diessners.
Absolutely. I mean, we're really blessed at LC. We really do have a lot of professors that really care, and they're very talented with teaching, and they're talented in their field. And, well, you guys know, because you've had a bunch of good professors.
Yeah, dude, that is a fact, especially in the psych department.
Yeah.
I've had a handful.
Yeah, there's certainly, I mean, some of my favorite people are in humanities. I mean, when I'm just choosing someone to hang out with and have lunch with, I often look towards the humanities.
Yeah. You're like, who will be the nicest to me? That's really how it is. Like, who will be the nicest to me today, and who will listen to me talk? And it's always
it's like I once told my class I wanted to leave for lunch early because I was having lunch with Peter Ramin, and they said, well, why? I said, well, he's intellectual candy, man. He's great to talk to.
It's true. I've been working very closely with him for the past couple weeks in that room behind us. Very passionate about the work.
Man.
Yeah, I don't know. This kind of touching to me right now. I feel it's too bad that you're going to be out of here. Hey, you can come back. You can guest lecture.
I'm hoping to. I'll offer to substitute for the psych teachers, and after a year, I'm allowed to adjunct. So I'm hoping the college will have enough money to hire adjuncts, and that the psych department will need them. So a couple of big ifs, but
We will start a rally to make that happen. I know we could fill the fields of the library lawn with picket fence signs saying, "Bring back Dr. Diessner. We want knowledge. We want knowledge.
We want knowledge."
And yeah, dude, I think that if you were to do adjunct teaching, I think that we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, where you were saying then in that case you're not 100% having to dedicate your work to this wide variety, because you teach a lot of classes. And that's a lot of work to have to, nurture a curriculum of 5 different classes, probably more. So you get to focus now on way more, in what you were specialized in as an adjunct. And to me, I think that I really feel like you'll have a even more beautiful teaching experience, because now you get to focus your energy on that. But then you also get to focus your energy on being retired too, somewhat. It's like a hybrid life.
Yeah.
But now you get to enjoy the real world with much more intensity. I really think that it'll be cool.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious what it'll be like.
So what do you want to do during your retirement?
Well, I'm going to continue to do research. Gabe's just been helping me as a research assistant in a whole new modality where I'm using Mechanical Turk through Amazon, where you pay researchers that are a national database to do your studies. Like the one we're doing now, they get randomly assigned 5 different videos, and they take some psychological tests after they watch them. And then we're going to sort out some pretty interesting stuff. Some of it I hope will be real cutting edge between the natural beauty and moral beauty fields. So I'm hoping to continue that. And I have several editors that want me to write things for them. And I told them, well, just wait till I retire and I'll do it. So, yeah, I like the writing and the research. And it'd be nice to slow down a little. I still have a lot of energy. I was the kind of guy that for 32 years would wake up on Monday morning and think, cool, I get to go to work.
That's great.
Now what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Because even during COVID, right, you wake up and think, oh, man, shit, I'm going to go back. I'm going to dress from the waist up and walk to my office at home. Great.
Right? It's
My b-ball shorts and my suit top.
oh, man.
Yeah.
I've been there, brother. Man, yeah, it's really fascinating how the environment you're in plays a role in your cognition. If you're at home working, I can't do it, man. When I'm at home, I want to go to my basement and play my drums, and so I totally feel that. I really, there needs to be a place you go to Zoom, so you at least have that that thought, I am going to work. I'm changing my current environment.
Yes.
Because, it really is important.
Would you have had it any other way? The way that you did things up to this point, would you have it any other way? I mean, it seems like you seem pretty fulfilled with what you've done so far.
Well, I have a creative imagination, so I can always imagine things being better than they are. But do I feel really blessed and very grateful about my ride at LC? I do. I feel very blessed, very grateful. I've had great colleagues, wonderful students, my bosses, you know, your boss is such a huge factor in the quality of your life, right?
Absolutely.
And I've had almost literally every department chair I've had in 33 years has at least been very supportive to me, if not in general their department. And that's been a really good quality of life.
Oh, man.
It's the vice presidents we have now. I just love them. You know, Dr. Hansen, Dr. Stinson, Dr. Cray. These are great people.
They really are.
And so I've been very lucky.
I would have to agree. You seem like you got a lot out of it out of 33 years.
Oh, we're right there with you, man.
This is gonna be a tough one. Will you be at commencement?
I will.
Good.
I will be at commencement.
Good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
We'll definitely see you there.
Yeah.
Well, you'll see me at the table outside. I'm not allowed in. He's in, so.
I'll be giving 3 separate speeches.
Ooh, El Presidente.
Yeah.
El Vice Presidente has to go man the table outside and sign names.
You know, sometimes it pays to be in charge.
You're telling me that's the goal right now.
Yeah, I think it's really going to be a beautiful day. Like, just to know that, like, have some sort of celebration that, like, for those graduates, like, this is really amazing that y'all were able to get here now.
Yeah.
Because, like, we all experienced a complete paradigm shift that, like, knocked every single human being in this world out of their normal routine. And that's tough, man. Like, we see that, and we've seen that happen, like, on an individual level, you know, when people have bad things happen to them. But on a collective level, like what COVID's done, it's unlike anything I've ever seen in my life. And I really, really think it's a great achievement that, they got through it. And here's, like, a diploma to show you that you did that. Like, I'm really excited for those graduates. It'll be great.
Here's a piece of paper. Now get out.
You know what? I have a feeling that they're going to be pretty happy. You know,
honestly,
it's beautiful.
Well, I think we're getting close to out of time. I have a COVID test in 30 minutes, 35 minutes. Wow. So I could go for another 30. I do have to ask you, however, we have some questions we normally ask our guests. It almost feels wrong asking since we're on such this good note, but I'll do it anyway. Do you know what Dungeons and Dragons is?
I do. I knew about it before you were born, dude.
Have you played Dungeons and Dragons before?
I have not.
Are you somewhat familiar with how it works?
Oh, yeah. I've watched it play. My kids played it.
That makes things much easier.
Yeah.
So what would you be? What would your class be? You don't have to pick. You don't have to pick if you're going to be a war or a troll or something. But
wizard.
Wow, you've got to be about the 8th wizard that's walking. I mean, I guess we're at a college, so that makes sense. But yeah,
it's an academy of wizards.
Yeah, we've had a lot of wizards in here.
Just rename us to Hogwarts.
That was quick. That normally takes people about 10 minutes to figure out. Like,
he knew he was a wizard from the day he was born.
I think anyone that's a lifelong learner is probably going to say they're a wizard. Is going to say they're a wizard. I mean,
well, it's before your time, but a landmark television show from the 50s was called Mr. Wizard, and it was a science show, and it launched most of the generation of scientists that are my age.
Whoa. Mr. Wizard.
Yeah, exactly. And he's my second cousin.
What?
Who isn't your cousin?
Dude, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. For our listeners, Rhett Diessner is related to Rainn Wilson, Dwight Schrute from The Office. Like, that's crazy, man. That's so cool. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, The Office is like our generation's like safety net.
It was big.
You know,
it was big.
It still is.
Big.
It's
huge. Last year it was like numero uno on Netflix.
Oh man, dude, it hits different.
Cringe humor.
It's just absolute.
What the hell?
Absolute gold. Absolute gold.
That must get a little annoying, though, when people are like, oh, my gosh, you're related to Rainn Wilson. Like, yes, but I'm also me. I have my own life.
I'm sure people go up to Rain and say, "Oh my gosh, you're related to Rhett Diessner."
I bet someone has at one point.
I would if I ever met him.
Yeah, so I would imagine that would get frustrating after a while. But, I mean, it's in the family, you know?
Yeah. Well, if I didn't like Ray and admire him, it would probably be painful. But, you know, he's a good person, does a lot of charity work, and has his head in a really good place. So, unfortunately, I can admire him. So, this is a compliment.
Nice.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you gotta tell him I said hi sometime. Tell him I'm a big fan.
Gabe and Caden said hi.
I promise if I ever meet him for whatever reason, I'm like, you're related to Rhett Diessner.
Heck yeah.
He's awesome. And just not say anything about him. Yeah, that's great. Wait, so you're related to Mr. Wizard?
Yeah, my mom's side. So, I think Mr. Wizard. But he was a wizard with science. That's the kind of wizard I am. No magic. No science.
I think science is kind of magic.
You know, that sounds more... that sounds more like an artificer to me. A wizard of... or that's not magic. It's all cool contraptions and science. Oh, for another day.
Well, I normally have a question I ask my guests. It's changed over time, but I've kind of come to this. I like this question, and it's if you could imagine life as a symphony, you know, or a rock band, or whatever, any kind of musical ensemble, could be
A marching band, if you will.
anything that makes sounds that we interpret as music. And I think that this changes a lot depending on the setting, but like, what do you think your favorite instrument would be, like, that you would play as your role in this life?
And don't say didgeridoo.
Well, it would be between the cello and the cor anglais.
Whoa.
If we get another cello here.
This is just cellos and wizards, man.
Really?
Yes. That's like the third cello,
It
right?
would be so boring.
No, that's
cello
fine.
is
Well, no one said
beautiful.
cor anglais, right?
They haven't.
Yeah, I've never. Yeah, explain to me what that means.
Well, it's the most common word for this instrument, but it's and that's a French term which means English horn, and what it is a bass. Something like a bass. It's a bass woodwind.
Whoa.
Is it oboe straight?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's a bass oboe.
Whoa.
Oh.
But it has this very haunting spiritual sound, and it's in a couple of great works, like Dvorak's Ninth Symphony, his New World Symphony. It's in the Largo, and it's just incredible.
Dr. Diessner, I need you to make me a playlist, man. I want to hear what you've been listening to. Which this is actually leads me to my next question. It's like, what do you think would be like your favorite album, or like even like I can't say favorite because it really does change with time, but like I guess maybe if you could think of more than one, you're more welcome to answer. But like, what's something that like really touches you, like a musical piece, or even an album?
Well, if I answered as a behaviorist would say, well, what album have I played more times in my life than any other? So, you know, don't be telling me what you want to think. Just prove it, what you actually do. And I pretty much wore out Bob Marley's roots rock and reggae.
Wow.
So that's a super classic for me.
But what would you answer if you were Rhett and not a behaviorist?
Well, the symphonic song by César Franck, it's his tone poem about Psyche and Eros. It's a really beautiful romantic period piece, and it's in many movements, so it's like an album. I mean, my CD of it's just that plus one other song by Franck. Beatles' White Album's pretty cool.
Rocky Raccoon.
Yeah.
Man,
I'd say those are good answers.
those are great answers. Do you have Spotify?
I do.
So what you can do on there, you can make playlists for people.
I do.
You-
Well, I don't make. I'm self-centered. I make them for me.
Well,
But
you
I
can make
share
it
them.
exactly. You could share it. I want to see what you're listening to, and I'll share some with you too.
That'd be great.
Because I found like during COVID, that's something I've been getting into is making playlists
Cool.
like for people, and then exchanging.
Yeah.
It can get really weird too, especially like we talked about one of the playlists I made that's like really just I won't get into that, but like I think that'd be a really cool way to stay connected. Because there's I like your style, man.
I mean, you could send
I
it
like
to me
your style.
too, but you don't have to.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
you
want to
can.
hear what C-Mass listens to.
You don't.
I guess I have sometimes. It's meme worthy.
I don't even want to talk about it because I always get so much hate. But
I don't think
it's
that-
almost all 2000s pop. And which is a shame. I know it's not good, but there's just something about it.
I don't think that you could objectively just like call music good or bad because it means something. It means something different to somebody else, unless it's like actually like lyrical content says terrible things that are like objectively terrible. I think music means something.
Even that can have a point, too. That could be just a message to try and get people to open their eyes a little bit if you say something like that. But unless they're not, I mean...
well, I just got to tell you guys, I felt really honored that you invited me to have this discussion and hanging out with you. I'm usually a super time freak, but it just flew by.
Oh, I know, dude.
I know, it's crazy how fast it goes in here.
Appreciate it.
The
so
feeling's
much.
mutual, man.
But Friday night is date night in
Oh,
my
yeah,
home,
you gotta get there,
and
man.
The OCD rituals begin at 3:30.
Yes, sir.
Oh, my. You're 13 minutes away. That's fine by me. I got a COVID test
you
soon,
gotta
so...
go anyway.
Dr. Diessner, I just want to thank you so much for joining us. And, well, really just thank you for your 33 years of service here at LC. It has not gone unnoticed. You are, hands down, just a legend. Like, that is an understatement. So, thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. And
Means a lot.
hope the listeners enjoyed some great stories. We sure did.
Any last words? That sounds kind of menacing. That's not what I meant. Any last words?
Hallelujah, brother.
All right, all right, everyone. Thank you guys for listening to the Fireside Chat. I'm C-Mass,
I'm Gabe.
and this was Rhett with us, Rhett Diessner.
Thank you so much for listening.
Have a great weekend.